Hi, I'm Dr. Dawn Vogler-Elias, and I'm a professor of speech-language pathology.
And I'm Dr. Shana Jamanis, and I'm a professor of teacher education.
And we're both the co-directors of the Interdisciplinary Specialty Program in Autism at Nazareth College.
We're here to talk about the major disruption that's happening in homes across the world as children are unable to go to schools.
But for children on the autism spectrum, this time can present with some very unique challenges. Well, I think that similar to what many of us are experiencing, families of children on the autism spectrum can be really facing some challenges. All of our routines have been disrupted. Children and families have been separated from the regular people that they interact with, their friends, their school community, teachers, other professionals in the school. And all of those things provide comfort and connection in our daily life. For individuals on the autism spectrum in particular, disruption in routine can often present with some very significant challenges, even more so than other individuals, because individuals on the spectrum may really depend on those routines to understand and make sense of what's happening in their world. So it can cause increased feelings of anxiety or other kinds of emotions. And it can really be challenging to establish routines when we are having so many frequent changes, not sure what to expect from one week to the next. And so families are just maybe struggling to set those routines and identify strategies in this time. Families also may be inundated with resources from different well-intended and very useful sources like schools or their doctors or other organizations, but that can also be challenging to sift through and make sense of all that information.
Well, right now, there's certainly a lot of advice for families going around. Certainly, families can create schedules to keep a routine at home for school time, for meal time, for time outside, playtime, downtime, family time. Families can use visual supports to assist children with these routines and also for emotional regulation during this time. They can also utilize community supports out there in places like Autism Up that are connecting families right now virtually, and families can participate in a variety of virtual programs that are being offered through different community resources. But this is also an unusual time, and I think we all need to kind of keep this in mind. And while many of these things may work and often do work on a day-to-day basis, right now it might be challenging for families, for children that are just thrown out of their routine. It's hard for all of us, and we all feel off our game right now. So I think we have to be easy on ourselves, and families need to be easy as well. And they are also trying to parent multiple children potentially and also work from home themselves. So I think all of these things are great ideas, and also giving ourselves a little bit of a break.
I think that, there's a lot of exciting things happening right now, and we're seeing a lot of creativity and outside of the box thinking as we've all been sort of placed in this unprecedented and unique situation. So many schools, teachers, speech language pathologists, other professionals are being very creative in finding ways to stay connected and stay in touch with their families. And I think that really trying to use different methods. Some districts are using teletherapy. So much like we're talking right now, they may be interacting with whole classes of children or small groups of children at different points during the week. Some schools are recording videos of familiar routines that happen in the school. So recording things like calendar time or what happens at different points during the day so that children can experience the comfort of that familiarity. Sharing lots of virtual resources. So lots of things have been made widely available through school districts. I know many school districts are working very hard to make sure that all families have access to technology and the resources that they need to be able to access those materials. And also some professionals dropping off physical materials at families' homes while using social distancing so that families have those resources, making phone calls, staying in touch through email. I think that for children on the autism spectrum, communication and language is often a very big area of challenge and presents some barriers. And so professionals who support individuals on the spectrum are making an effort to really try to help children understand what's going on using very direct and clear language. When we think about some of the ways that we talk about the events that are happening right now, it can be very abstract. We can't see a virus, and we might talk about someone catching it. And what does that really mean? And so using very clear language so that children can understand why we're having to do what we're doing. Why are people wearing masks? Why are we not able to go places that we typically go? Professionals who support individuals on the spectrum can really help families to navigate, helping children understand, which will ultimately decrease, hopefully, the anxiety and worry about some of that.
Well, I think the challenges are very similar to the challenges that all families are facing right now. I think it's important to keep in mind that each family is different. So some families of children on the autism spectrum might be worried about the interruption in services right now and the progress that their children were making while they were able to attend school. Some families are dealing with the health crisis and family members who are ill or have passed away, and those have created a lot of angst and probably upheaval in their homes as well. I think a common stereotype about children or individuals on the autism spectrum is that they prefer social isolation or prefer to be alone. However, the responses actually in this time right now would show that this is very challenging for individuals on the autism spectrum as well, that they are very much missing the social interactions that they have with their friends or their teachers or their schoolmates. And so it's important to remember that while that stereotype exists, that this is actually a time to maybe step back and question that stereotype. Many individuals are feeling very isolated right now. And so family members are working really hard to make sure they stay socially connected. And that's a challenge for all of our children right now. Well, as we continue working with our professionals in iSpan, we use this current context to really help them understand how to support families during this time. So like Dawn was talking about earlier, many professionals are engaging with students virtually. They're dropping materials off in their homes. I think this is a time that calls for professionals to think outside of the box and be very creative and flexible and responsive to individual needs. We know that commonly used strategies that might be best practice or evidence-based strategies for individuals on the autism spectrum are probably not going to be able to be implemented in the way that they were intended right now. So it requires professionals to be able to problem solve and think creatively and out of the box. I also think that it's important to emphasize for our professionals that we work with in iSpan that families on the autism spectrum may also be better equipped in ways to work during this time. I recently read a post from a mom who shared how families of children on the autism spectrum experience things like social isolation and disruption in routine pretty much every day, and they manage and work through it. So in some ways, it's important for our professionals to see the strengths that families bring in times like this.
Yeah, and I think that is so true. And I also think, in our program, we focus on teaching students to use evidence-based strategies, use a framework for making decisions, whether it's in a therapy session or in a classroom, that allows them to evaluate the supports that we know are that we have research on and are shown to be true, but also incorporating the family in the decision making and in understanding whether a support is working or whether it's not, and using the evidence that the family provides and their own experience as a critical component of how we're making decisions. And so I think this experience that we're all having is just another example of how we really must make sure that what the things that we're telling families to do or encouraging them to do are really on the same page as what they would like to do, and that they're able to do, and that they're things that are meeting their needs. So it's just another example of how that checking in and just making sure that we are working with the family as a critical member of the team is so important, and understanding that all children and all families are different, and they will all have different challenges, strengths, ability to cope in different situations. And that when we are teaching future professionals, I know that Shayna and I feel so passionately about that we must really make sure that the future professionals that we're teaching are those who are going to work with their families and are going to be humble in understanding that families are a critical piece of figuring out how we can work together.
No, I think the best advice right now is, like Dawn was just saying, to really think about what are your own needs, what are you able to manage right now, and be easy on yourselves, because this is just not a normal time. And no matter how much we put in our efforts into creating routines and visual structures and trying to manage screen time for children, this is just an unusual time. And I think that we just have to roll with it.